Everyone thinks that you have to overbid to buy a house right now. And in some situations, in some markets, that is still true. But in central Massachusetts, it is still a little hit or miss. And buyers have some negotiating power depending on what we're looking at. So some of my buyers getting price reductions, we're getting sellers to cover closing costs, and some are even getting homes under asking price. It's not luck, it is all about strategy. So I'm going to walk you through exactly how buyers are doing it and what you have to have in place in order for you to get this same result. So I'm Annie Oakman. I am a local real estate agent here in Central Massachusetts. I cover all of Massachusetts and Connecticut, and I am here to help you through the whole home buying process. So let's chat about getting a property under asking price. So before you can negotiate, you need to understand what market you are actually in. Each market, each town is a little bit different. Some homes are still getting multiple offers and selling over asking within the first weekend, and those are typically well-priced homes that are move-in ready in the most in-demand towns. But a growing number of homes are sitting. We're seeing days on the market tick up in certain areas. Price reductions are happening, and sellers that are listing their homes too high, they're just sitting and they continue to have price drops. And then people are wondering what is wrong with the home. Does not necessarily mean that something is wrong with the house. So there is a gap between seller expectations, the market reality. That's where buyers are really finding leverage. So the first thing that I do with every buyer is pull actual data for the specific towns, the price ranges that we're shopping in. How long are the homes sitting? What is the list price to sale price ratio? How many price cuts are we seeing in the last 30 days? And just see where that data really lands and what town specifically we should be taking a look at. Then we're going to start targeting the right homes. So not every home is negotiable, and knowing which one is negotiable, that's honestly half the battle. So what I'm looking for when I'm helping a buyer find some leverage is days on the market. This is how many days the property has been sitting for. If it's been sitting for 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, that's going to be a very different conversation than a property that just hit the market on Thursday. So the longer the home sits, of course, the more motivated a seller will likely be. And that typically means we'll have a little bit more negotiating power. So price reductions is the next thing that I'm looking at. If a seller has already dropped the price once, they're showing you something that they may have been overpriced initially and they're willing to move a little bit. So that's usually our first signal that we've got a little bit of room to negotiate. And then next, we're looking at homes that have cosmetic work that may need to be done. Move-in homes are going to attract the most competition, but a home that may need some paint, flooring, a little bit of updating, buyers that can see past the surface and are open to a little bit of work, they are going to be competing with less people. So you might have a little bit of negotiating power there. We're going to look at estate sales and relocation sales. These are sellers that are typically more motivated and need a clean, fast closing. And then vacant homes. The seller is paying a mortgage on an empty house every single month, and so they're going to want to move quickly. So those are the areas where we're going to have a little bit more leverage. Next, we're going to be looking at your finances. I want you to have spoken with a lender, and I'm happy to send you lender recommendations as well, but I want you to get pre-approved with a lender. So a pre-approval is really step one, because that is really the first step. You should speak with a lender, get pre-approved, and not pre-qualified. You want to get pre-approved, and you want to get it by a reputable lender. So again, happy to send you lender recommendations, but honestly, a lot of real estate agents are going to advise against offers that are buyers that are pre-approved with like a Bank of America or one of those types of banks, because they're not buyer friendly. Bank of America in particular is business friendly. So they are focused on business transactions and not home buyer mortgages. It's just a smaller portion of their business. So they're difficult to work with. So your real estate agent really knows who is the most friendly lenders to work with, the best lenders to work with, who's going to be the best lender for your particular situation. Are you a first-time home buyer? Are you a veteran? Are you looking in a rural area and you can get a USDA loan? What are you looking for? Your real estate agent will be able to pair you with lenders that will work for your specific situation that sellers are going to be happy to see come through. So pre-approval with a reputable lender is step number one. But two, you can take it a step farther also and ask your lender to fully underwrite you. You get a home buyer certificate, meaning that you've gone through the underwriting process and you are ready to close within 10 days of an offer being accepted. That's huge, because sometimes, when a seller is going to get an offer, let's say you submit an offer that's $10,000 below asking, but you've been fully approved by your bank already and you can close within 10 days. The seller might say, okay, for $10,000 less than my asking, I would agree to that. that because we're going to be closing in 10 days. So you've got more negotiating power the stronger you are as a buyer. So talk to your lender about getting fully approved or fully underwritten. And then you're also going to want to have your down payment funds documented and ready to go. I know a lot of people have their down payment funds in different 401k or different stock options, whatever it may be. Have that money ready to go because you're going to need to transfer that in quickly when the time comes. And then you want a lender who is going to be working within a reasonable time frame. Again, that goes with who you're talking with for a lender, making sure you're going with a reputable lender because sellers care about certainty. So when a seller knows that your financing is solid, they're more likely to accept your offer or take your offer seriously, even if the number isn't exactly where they want it to be. So I always tell buyers, get your financing buttoned up before you fall in love with a house because it's going to give you the more negotiating power. Okay, what should we be asking for? So this is the part that a lot of people really want to know about. What do you actually ask for? How do you structure the offer? The first thing I would suggest is price versus concession, discussing this with your real estate agent and knowing the difference. So sometimes going below asking on the price is the right move, but sometimes it's smarter to offer closer to asking and ask the seller to cover your closing costs instead. Why might this be? Because sellers are sometimes emotionally attached to their asking price. So they would rather hold on to their price and give you something else than to have their price take a cut. So closing costs, those are contributions to your closing costs. So it could be repair credits, it could be buying down your interest rate. These are all ways to basically put more cash in your pocket and bring less cash to the closing table. So the seller would cover some of those costs and you would have to bring less to the closing table typically. So that may be one way, is asking for a concession rather than asking for a price reduction. Second, we're going to lead with your strengths, not just the price. So if you're flexible with the closing date, that is something that the seller may be interested in. If you can close quickly, you want to make sure that your real estate agent makes that clear. If you are a straightforward buyer with no contingencies, like you don't need to sell your house in order to buy a house, that's definitely something that the seller should know. You want to make sure that they feel like you're an easy choice, even if the price isn't quite right. So if you're easy to work with and it's going to be a smooth deal, then that's also a benefit to the seller. Third, we're going to use the home inspection. So I know waiving a home inspection is still something that people are discussing. In central Massachusetts, honestly, a lot of people are not waiving it anymore. I never suggest waiving a home inspection. You always want to get a home inspection. So if the home inspection comes back with real issues, we've got negotiating power. So if it's deferred maintenance, if your mechanical systems are at the end of their life, if there are things that are going to cost you money as a buyer, you've got a legitimate basis to go back to the seller and renegotiate. I've honestly seen buyers right now, some of my buyers have gotten up to $15,000 in closing cost credit after the home inspection. So it's a strategy that a lot of buyers don't use because they're afraid of hurting the seller's feelings. But realistically, we need to look out what is best for you because this is the home that you are going to be living in. This is typically the biggest investment that many make in their lifetime. So you want to make sure that it's the right option for you and you're doing best for you. You cannot worry about hurting the seller's feelings. That is your real estate agent's job to make sure that the seller's feelings are not hurt. So don't worry about that. You need to do what's best for you and you need to be working with a real estate agent who's going to be fighting for you on that end too. Last, I would say do not lowball a property without context or an explanation. If you are insisting to your real estate agent or your real estate agent suggests that you lowball a property, put in a low offer, support it with comparable properties and explain why your number is where it is at. Do not just throw out a price without telling the seller why you're throwing that price out. So those are kind of my top tips there. One of the most underrated parts of negotiating, I would say, is thinking about what the seller needs. So price is one thing. Sometimes all the seller wants is the highest price, and that's that. But sellers also care about timing, if they need to close by a certain date, certainty, if they don't want to worry about the deal falling through. Sometimes if a property has been on the market for a while, it may be because they had an initial deal, it fell through, and now what they want is a strong buyer to come through that the deal is going to be 100% certain. And you need to provide them with that certainty to make sure that they're feeling comfortable with it as well. And another thing is sellers may not want to do repairs. They may not want to do showings. They may not want the hassle. So what can you do to make it easier for them? When I'm representing a buyer, I try to get as much information from the seller's agent through conversations with them them, finding out what the seller cares about, what's most important to them in an offer and in a deal. Because if a seller is in a hurry and you can offer them a quick closing, that may be what they're looking for. You just want to know what exactly it is that they're looking for, because the best offer doesn't just address price. It addresses what the seller is actually trying to accomplish and what they need. Okay, let's talk about counter offers, because getting a counter offer is a good sign. It means the seller is engaged, they're open to discussing this with you, they're open to negotiating. So do not panic, don't immediately cave. If you made a reasonable offer, it's okay to counter back. Negotiation's a conversation. A lot of times I find that a seller will counter the offer and the buyer will say, yes, yes, yes. Don't do that right away. Think about it, make sure that it's right for you as well, and don't be afraid to counter back. Again, we are not worried about the seller's feelings. We're worried about making sure that you get the best property with the best conditions for you. You also need to know when to walk away. If you made an offer and you feel like it's a strong offer and a fair offer, and the seller has come back with either something that's unrealistic or out of your budget, don't let your emotions push you past your limits. You've got to have an anchor in place, and you've got to know when is the time for you to walk away. Once you've hit this number, we're walking away. You want to look at the whole package. Sometimes the seller isn't going to move the price, but they'll throw in closing costs or whatever that may be. So make sure you're looking at fully what the seller has countered. Again, not every deal is right. So if the seller is overpriced and unwilling to move, sometimes the best negotiation is to walk away and find a better opportunity for yourself. And honestly, sometimes the seller may come back too. So you just never know. So again, buyers are getting homes below asking here in Central Massachusetts. It's not happening by accident. There are things to pay attention to. So if you've been thinking about buying a home, I'm here to help you, walk you through the process, give you all of my tips and my tricks, and help you out however I can. So if you have any questions, let me know. All of my info is in the comments below. Let me know how I can help you out. If you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe. I'll talk to you soon.